Well, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We only have 30 minutes scheduled for our table talk, and appreciate you folks coming. This is a new thing for FDI. We felt like since we were covering the topic of AI throughout all of our live events this year, that it would probably be wise to have what we're calling these table talks to give people the opportunity to ask questions, to talk about their own thoughts and ideas, or maybe even fears. And really, this is not a time that I'll do a lot of talking, nor George or Scott. Rather, we want to hear your feedback, your thoughts, and really just kind of explore this topic together. So just a couple of things to set this up is we are going to have opportunity for you to ask questions, but also for you to answer some questions, some brainstorming opportunities. Again, we want you to be talking, but I'm going to put that just a little rule in there that please stay on topic. Sometimes we can get off topic and start venting about things and what we're frustrated about our classes and really try to stay on topic as we talk about our perceptions and our ideas based on the two live events that we just experienced. And as a reminder, those two live events that George and Scott were gracious enough to lead for us. The first one, they looked at the intersection of AI and ACU's mission and AI's place in the academy. And their second presentation just a couple of weeks ago was about AI and the evolution of learning theory and how those two are interacting. Now, just for your information, if you want to use these, if not, that's fine. But I do have two Google Docs open where you can go in and put your own ideas and thoughts about these two topics. First of all, if you're struggling with AI in a course and you just don't know how to handle it, we can have some discussions in those Google Docs where you can share some of your struggles you're having and people can share the ideas of how they're handling that. Here's that first one. The second Google Doc that is open where you can share some of your ideas and thoughts is what are your ideas on how we encourage AI use, or what are your ideas on how we discourage AI use? What our goal is here is we'd like to have a living document where we can keep track of ideas and people can have discussions. Because unlike me, some people don't like to talk a lot, and maybe you'd rather put your ideas in writing. So we'd love to hear from you in those documents as well. But let me go back to my presentation slides, and I have a couple of questions for our discussion today, and you can answer any of those, but I'm going to start out with the first one and ask everybody, do you think AI is a fad or do you think it's here to stay? And why do you think that? You can answer in the chat, you can unmute and talk. I can't see everybody since I have these questions up, but we want to hear from you. So what do you think?
Dean, I think it would be dependent on the field. Certainly in my field, it's here to stay.
John, I don't know that your field would exist without AI.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm. It looks like we have some people in the chat saying, yeah, here to stay. Well, do you think AI then is a threat or opportunity to advance ACU's mission, and how so?
I think I think it's both, Dina. I think there is a threat in terms of academic integrity. There's a possibility while technologists are trying to catch up with accurate tools for faculty to determine whether AI is present or not. Um, while we're waiting for those tools to be perfected, there is a threat that students or faculty members or others could violate our tenets and values of academic integrity. On the other hand, great opportunities exist to automate or to make more efficient processes and learning. Can you imagine, for example, if parts of our learning management systems like Canvas operated on AI saving the professor hours of work or the administrator's hours of work. So I think it's both and.
Mm. Thank you, Jim. I think you've got some great points there. Dr. Richens, I wanted to follow up on something you said in the chat here. You said opportunity because it can be used for Socratic teaching. Can you give me more ideas? Give us more ideas on how it can be used for Socratic teaching?
Sure. I think that students do better when they explore something they're interested in. So it's possible to give them. I like the idea that the creates
You know, Dr. Richard, I think there's some breaking up and we're not hearing you as clearly, but if you want to expand more on that in the chat, I'd love to hear your ideas on that and to help us understand more fully where you're coming from. Sorry about that, but I'm not hearing you as clearly. So I'm going to move more quickly down to that third question. And what responsibility do we have as faculty in having how we teach AI and its appropriate use? And do you have any ideas where we should do that? Most of us are very opinionated, so I'd love to hear your opinions on that.
Dina, I've really appreciated both of these conversations we've had so far. And it was fascinating to me that the first one, especially, I had to listen to the recording and you could hear in the different presenters, to use church language, kind of the worship leader voice, all for it, and the prophet warning voice, and the sage, very knowledgeable, you know, in Dr.
Yeah.
voice. And I just appreciate that we're not just getting one perspective on it. But I've now had one of my AI assignments, I've had students refute it 3 times because over ethical issues. And it's one where I'm asking them to use AI with imagery, and they're talking about the ethics of using art and AI and it's stealing from artists and what to do with that. So I don't have answers to these questions, but I'm also thinking about the field of eco-theology and what is AI doing to the environment? What is AI doing with artists? Is it ethical? I would really like another AI session that kind of covers some ethics of AI to help give me peace and reassure me that we are in line with our mission, that we are using it. I see so much good, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to ignore there are some serious ethical questions about what it does to the environment and artists. And I just want to make sure we have everything on the table.
I appreciate you asking that because we do have one scheduled about ethics and AI. So that will be upcoming this year.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So back to that question though, what responsibility do we as faculty have in how we teach AI and its appropriate use? But also, where do you think we should teach that appropriate use?
Like, I think that especially in the DNP program, I think that we need to look at introducing the use of AI early in the programs, so that the earlier courses as their foundation, when they're learning how to write and search literature and and research and all of that, that's a better time to kind of introduce the topic to them so they can start talking early on about the ethics of it. We've had some issues with it, with some of our students with AI, but one of the questions I have is sometimes they're not, sometimes I truly do believe that they are not aware that, like Grammarly is rewriting their paragraphs and sentences for them. And I've had students ask me, well, how am I supposed to know if I've accidentally accepted a spelling correction and it rewrote the whole paragraph when, I guess, they don't go back and reread what they're writing. I don't know. But Doesn't, I mean, I know when they turn it into, when they turn their papers in to turn it in, there is an AI percentage down there. And I know it's not completely accurate. I recognize that, but do the students not see that?
They don't see it. We don't, and Amanda, I know you're here. You may want to address what the students see and don't, but if you don't go
Yeah,
too fast through Grammarly, it shows you if you're doing spelling or if you're rewriting the sentence. Amanda, I think you're there.
yeah, so Turnitin does not release the AI score to students because they do not have enough confidence in that score to give it to students. So I think, that's a really, right? They're using AI to detect if a student used AI, right? So it's kind of a
Right.
vicious circle there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Grammarly is a tool we provide at ACU to our students. So I know that is a big learning curve. We're saying, hey, we're giving students this tool, and then you're telling me I shouldn't be using it, or I can only use it in some aspects, and Turnitin, Copy Leaks, all of them have acknowledged that Grammarly and writing assistant services like that are often flagging as AI writing because AI is manipulating student word choice there. So it is, and people have different perspectives if Grammarly is considered ethical or not for student writing as well. So
Well, I think
not
in
everybody views that.
cases,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that in the cases where I've had conversations with students, it's more of, do you see how this isn't in your voice? And it it changes it changes your it changes the student's words and presents it at a higher scholarly level when maybe the student isn't actually at that level. And so it, and then once we point it out, like show them where they wrote the entire paragraph, and then we show where they allowed Grammarly to rewrite it, and they're like, oh yeah, okay. When you read it out loud, they hear it. And I think, it's one of those things where I always tell students, you should read every paper out loud to yourself before you submit it to me,
Well, I want
because
to
that's
address real
how the
quick
ear hears it.
what Christina's brought up, and then Julie, I'm going to come back to you with the Writing Center and some of the things that y'all are doing. Grammarly is offered to our ACU students, but the version that is offered, we have AI turned off, so it only does spelling, grammar things. If a student, though, has their own personal email that they open a Grammarly account, even the free version of Grammarly that they log on to with their own email does offer AI assistance. So when a student accepts, hey, do you want to rewrite this in a different voice or whatever, then we start seeing more of that AI use in papers, because the student will go, yeah, I'll accept that rewrite. I'll accept that rewrite. But Christina, I use Grammarly a lot in my own writing, and it's very clear when it's doing a spelling change, in my opinion, and it's very clear when it's doing a total rewrite of a sentence. But it may be the student is just going so fast, they're accepting everything. But Julie, I want to transition to you real quick. You said something about the Writing Center and some of the things y'all are doing with AI training with students.
Yeah. So the Writing Center isn't like a required thing. We aren't hitting every student that enters ACU online, but we are a support system, and we've already started generating webinars and blog posts, just resources that can come alongside what professors are trying to do with their students, especially when AI is, leaking in to their courses, or actually assigned, as you said, Dr. Dahlman, as part of their assignments. So things like how to cite AI, we don't have all the answers, but we are trying to come alongside professors as we develop students' awareness of AI. And part of that question on where should we do that, I'm volunteering that the Writing Center is one space, but I also agree with Dr. Ryan. Those entry-level courses, I think, are a great place to start increasing student awareness, because I do think it's here to stay, like most of the people in the comments said. and it's always going to be a temptation. So why not, instead of completely resisting that, which I think is impacting our ACU mission, to like come alongside students, not just police them or what they can and can't do. If they're really inclined to use this, let's go ahead and embrace that, or at least step forward into it and teach them, kind of like what you were saying, Dr. Ryan, what is the difference between my voice and an AI influenced voice? That's a conversation I think that's valuable in entry-level English classes, or kind of those entry-level courses probably. And that would require a lot of work. I'm looking at Dr. Amanda and her team.
Thanks, Julie. That was great input. I'm going to transition to this fourth question, because I had a lot of ahas when George and Scott talked about learning theory and how our approach to learning theory would also approach how we used AI. How do you think your approach to learning theory impacted how you approach AI in your courses, or how you will approach AI in your courses?
The ways I've kind of incorporated it, I'll say more simplistic per se way, is Bloom's taxonomy, and looking at the level of awareness and the verbs that are used with, throughout the learning objectives, throughout the experiences that our students have. But how do we have Bloom's taxonomy and incorporate the AI pieces into that? So what does an experience with an AI assignment look like? If you're incorporating AI, how does that look on that scale? And that's kind of a way that was simplistic enough for me to get things incorporated in the experiences for student, letting them understand, at least at the early stages, when and where you could start incorporating AI, and it's still recognizing what Dr. Ryan and Julie have mentioned too, finding your voice in the midst of that. So what does the AI experience versus authentic intelligence look like in that experience as well? So that was kind of one of the ways I looked at I guess the early stages, quickly incorporating that, because I did want to encourage them to use it, because it's not going away.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Sandra. Anybody else?
Just saw Dr. Salzman's comment in the chat there. And I've heard that experience too, about the limited diversity of thought. So I've heard that comment as well. And I've heard, based on some of the early experiences, it's almost kind of the thought of death by PowerPoint, but the AI version of it. So we are basically scripted in terms of how AI dictates to us what we can share, what we cannot share, or how it's imagined to be better based on versus what we are sharing. So I just wanted to comment on that as well.
Y'all probably remember George's interpretation of being the talk show host, when he would ask over and over again in the last presentation, is it AIable? And I was thinking back to my courses, as an instructor, I can default to behaviorist approaches. And some of my stuff in my courses in communication and leadership are AIable. And it's a challenge that I'm still learning about, how to create an assignment in a way that measures learning, an authentic learning assignment, and is not as AIable. Or I'm going to have to learn better how to use AI so I can teach my students how to use AI to approach things. It's a challenge to do both of those things in a course.
I want to say, I think John made a great point in the chat. When I catch my students using it, they'll tell me, but I just wanted my writing to sound more professional. You guys are always on to us about our writing needs to sound more professional. So that's why I put my sentence in and I told it to make it sound more professional. And you know, I've done that too. I have to admit, yeah. And why can't we use that for that purpose?
I agree, Alicia. And I think also to spin off of what John's comment was, um, yes, we do want, we don't, I say the same thing. This is not a conversation. This is a professional writing. I shouldn't feel like I need to go to Starbucks and get a coffee while I'm reading your paper. But I think the difference between allowing AI to assist you in improving your professional writing, at least what I find with students, is they can't tell us what the statement means or the paragraph means. It's using terminology that they don't understand. So if I'm asking them, oh, I can't remember the last, I mean, thankfully it's been a couple of months, but I actually took a phrase out of the paragraph that she presented. And I said, what does this mean to you? And she literally couldn't tell me. And I was like, well, see, that's why you need to have the references. And I point out to the students all the time, one of the no-brainers that tells me that you have pulled this from AI is the reference. There's one reference and it's at the end of the paragraph, because that's AI across the board. They have one reference and it's at the end of the paragraph. You're supposed to be referencing throughout the paragraph. And if you don't understand what that reference was speaking to, then it then you didn't comprehend, or you didn't read it. So that's one way that I get students to be like, oh, I guess I do. I can't just copy and paste, which they shouldn't be doing anyway, but
We have two great comments. I mean, all of y'all are great comments in the chat, but two that I'm going to kind of pull out. Um, first of all, Aline says, she'd like to see suggested knowledge and skills for AI literacy and fluency from the university, a suggested reference to help us all think through it. And I think that's wise, Aline. But I'm also going to shift to Scott's question is, what about students without literacies or with disabilities that AI can either help or maybe hinder in their work?
I think, I mean, I do have some students with literacy issues, and because their English is not their first language. And then of course we do have some learning disabilities in our program. And when I talk to them, it's back to the same thing. If AI provided you with a reference, you need to go look at that reference and make sure you understand what they're talking about. And you need to be able to reference all of the information that's in there and make sure that it agrees with what you're trying to present in your paper. So it's that piece of I mean, they can use AI, but they can't just stop there. They have to verify the accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll ask this last question. What do you hope to do differently with AI in your courses based upon these last two talks we've had? And maybe nothing, but going forward, are there any changes or things you're going to do because of what we've been talking through?
Hi. I am keeping a list of the assignments where I'm getting AIVs, and it's really interesting that they're tend to be the same assignment on the same course. So I know that that is very AI-able, and I'm going to have to go back, and I would like to rework the assignment so it's not so I'm being proactive and not reactive to putting the students in situations where it's like, this is faster, right? And I'm also, as ACU Dallas, we are part of the Carnegie Project for the EDD. And we have a group for AI skills and uses and implementation at the EDD. And one tool that I thought that was really interesting, and I'm trying to work on it, is creating an AI bot that will help assess the courses to the standards of the framework for CPED. So if I get it working, happy to share with anybody that has a secondary accreditation or you're trying to meet the standards for some sort of certificate. In theory, it should highlight and score the different modules and assignments matched up to whatever the framework you're trying to get to is. So I'll let you know. It's going slow, but I'll let you know.
That's so cool, Elaine. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else? What do you hope to do differently with AI based on our talks? Well, what I'm hearing from you folks is you're like, okay, AI is here to stay. We're going to have to learn how to deal with it one way or the other, whether we're asking if something is AIable or teaching students how to use AI. As you know, FDI this year, all of our presentations are focusing on AI. We're hoping to give you tools for your toolkit to approach our courses in a way that will help you navigate this issue with AI. I'm going to take this recording and we'll repost it for everybody. I'm also going to take the chat and I'll try to upload that as a document too as I send it out to everybody. But thank y'all for coming today. And I hope that we're just spurring your thinking. I don't think we can come up with a solution, probably not even in a year or two, but we can start working toward being more practical and fruitful in our use of AI. So thanks for coming. Appreciate your time. Bye-bye.